It's almost impossible to find a fourth-generation Megane or Scenic with a gasoline engine. Nevertheless, in Europe, quite a lot of gasoline engines, mostly turbocharged ones, were installed on these models. These are 1.2 TC and 1.3 TC of various modifications with power from 100 to 160 horsepower, and on the GT version there is also 1.6 TC, producing an impressive 205 horsepower. Well, the Megane RS received a 280 horsepower 1.8-liter turbo engine. Early versions of 1.2-liter engines, H5FT, are known for premature timing chain stretching and sprocket wear, as well as increased oil consumption. It is believed that in 2015 they managed to get rid of these problems, but there are still cases where the chain fails at about 100,000 kilometers, so experts do not recommend these motors for purchase. The 1.3 TC H5HT engine is familiar from the Renault Arcana. It is good new, but with a used car you will get the same set of problems typical for the TC line. Plus, the motors have an aluminum block, in which plasma sprayed steel is used instead of liners, which eliminates the possibility of major repairs. Gasoline turbocharged engines 1.6 and 1.8 have not been studied in our area, and high customs rates make them completely uninteresting for import. In the same way, due to customs clearance, cars with a naturally aspirated 1.6-liter H4M engine with a power of 115 horsepower are practically barred from entering Belarus. Although, due to the fact that it has long been well known to specialists, it is quite unpretentious and generally reliable, a car with this engine could be recommended for purchase. I have good news for you. Now, if you are planning to buy a used car, or learn more about your car, you no longer need to search for the information you need on the internet. We have collected everything in one place for you, on the website carmi.pro. Here you can find out everything about the car, what brakes and at what mileage, any problems with engines, chassis or gearboxes, which trim levels are better not to mess with, and how not to lose money buying a used car. You will learn all this on carm.pro. The core of the Megane IV and Scenic/Grand Scenic IV offer is the 1.5-liter K9K diesel engine. The power of this engine in all modifications is sufficient for the Megane IV hatchback and, in general, for a station wagon. It is relatively sufficient for the short Scenic IV, but the Grand Scenic is too heavy for it. Nevertheless, the diesel 1.5 is economical and reliable, and has long been well known to specialists. This motor has no specific diseases. All experts unanimously say that the problem of rotating liners is a thing of the past. But to reassure yourself, at a mileage of about 200,000, you can check their condition. If we are talking about buying a freshly driven car, the mileage of which has not been confirmed by anything, you should do it right away. Sometimes there are cases of failure of the exhaust gas temperature sensor at the turbine inlet, but they are not systemic in nature. The timing belt drive belts should be changed every 60,000 to 80,000 kilometers. Experts also recommend changing the pump, although many owners change it through one belt replacement and have no problems. It is important to remember that the engine does not have hydraulic compensators, so once every 100,000 kilometers it is necessary to adjust the thermal clearances of the valves. With proper operation and timely maintenance, a 1.5-liter diesel engine can easily take care of 250,000 to 300,000 kilometers, and some engines live up to 400,000 without major repairs. The 1.6 DCI R9M engine is less common on sale than its 1.5-liter brother, and cars with it are more expensive. Nevertheless, the Grand Scenic IV is fitted with this engine, since it is more powerful, more torquey and better suited to the heavy Grand. The 130 horsepower version of the engine, which is installed on the cars in question, is equipped with one turbine and is devoid of many of the problems encountered on the 160 horsepower modification of the bi-turbo, cranking of the liners at low mileage, bursting blocks, antifreeze getting into the oil. In general, the 160 horsepower version is best avoided. The timing drive of this engine is chain. In theory, The chain resource is 200,000 to 250,000 kilometers. In practice, it's sometimes stretched to 150,000. However, such cases are quite rare. There are also oil leaks from under the chain cover. The R9M has hydraulic lifters, eliminating the need to adjust valve clearances. It should be noted that there is a significantly larger volume of oil when replacing compared to a 1.5-liter engine. If a 1.5-liter contains exactly 4.5 liters of oil, then a 1.6-liter engine will need to be filled with a liter more. In general, the 1.6-liter unit is also very reliable and unpretentious, but has been less studied by our specialists. There have been no problems with EGR and particulate filters on the models under consideration, although many of the cars have traveled more than 200,000 kilometers. The presence of a particulate filter requires the use of engine oil with Renault RN0720 approval. Many cars are equipped with a stop/start system, and as a result, an EFB battery is standardly installed under the hood, which, unlike AGM, is slightly more expensive than a regular acid battery. The stop/start system itself is not difficult to disable. The table shows the cost of the cheapest and most expensive options. If we take the Renault Perflux familiar to most owners, a fuel filter will cost $35, an air filter, $11, a cabin filter, $6, an oil filter, $12. Total is about $65 for the filters, plus about $50 for a 5-liter can of ELF oil. Maintenance frequency is every 10,000 kilometers. Provided that high-quality diesel fuel is used, the fuel filter replacement interval can be increased to 20,000 kilometers. If you do maintenance at a service center, it will cost about $130. Manual transmissions are reliable. The clutch life is 200,000 to 250,000 kilometers, after which it will need to be replaced along with the dual-mass flywheel, which will cost approximately $600 to $700 including work. Robotic transmissions from Getrag are used as automatic transmissions. There are both 6-speed EDC6 on early Megane IV and 7-speed EDC7 on Scenic from the beginning of production and Megane from 2018. EDC6 is also known as 6DCT250. This is the index under which it was installed on Ford cars. It uses a double dry clutch. It is also the main cause of headaches for owners, since in urban conditions it often gives up on runs of up to 80,000 kilometers. Often the cause of clutch failure is oil leakage through the input shaft oil seal. The cost of replacing a clutch kit is about $1,300. Problems with the TCM control unit also regularly occur, which manifests itself in incorrect operation of the gearbox. In this case, the TCM often fails even earlier than the clutch. In general, it's better not to. The EDC7 gearbox, also known as 7DCT300, already uses a double, wet clutch, and this is good because it lasts a long time, 200,000 kilometers or more. And in general, Belarusian Renault specialists have not noted any problems with this gearbox, although cars with this transmission are still poorly distributed. At the same time, the 7DCT300 has been produced since 2015 and is installed on many makes and models of cars, but there have been virtually no reports of its problems on the internet for 5 years. However, you must understand that with a mileage of more than 200,000 kilometers, a clutch replacement will be required, which will cost approximately twice as much as on a car with a manual transmission. Therefore, if there is no urgent need for an automatic car, the best choice remains a manual. Megane, Scenic and Grand Scenic of the 4th generation are cars with bodies that are resistant to our operating conditions, strong suspension and reliable diesel engines. 1.5 DCI and manual transmission are the best choice. Nevertheless, when choosing a diesel option, and others do not come to us, you should be careful. Good paintwork and resistance to wear of interior elements make life easier for unscrupulous drivers, because outwardly cars with mileage of 120,000 and 220,000 kilometers can look exactly the same, which allows you to twist the mileage, and upon visual inspection nothing will give this away. and given the long service intervals in Europe, buying a car with 200,000 plus mileage can mean serious expenses in the near future. In the chassis, the layout is extremely simple. In front there is a McPherson strut, in the rear there is a semi-independent beam. The service life of the suspension elements is high. The first ones to go are the tie rod ends, the silent blocks of the levers and the steering ends, but this happens after 100,000 kilometers. The ball joints are replaced as an assembly with the levers, and to replace the rear wheel bearings you will need to change the brake discs. The steering uses an electric booster, which eliminates rack leaks. In the fourth generation, rack knocks, often found on the second and third Megane/Scenic, are not yet observed even on cars with a mileage of more than 200,000 kilometers. On simple versions of the Megane IV there is a regular handbrake. In more expensive versions it is electric. In scenic vehicles, the parking brake drive has no alternative but electric. Each of the rear calipers has its own electric drive. The design is reliable, but over time problems may occur due to oxidized contacts. On the Scenic IV, there were mechanical failures of the motor housing due to corrosion at the contact point with the caliper, as well as cases of failure of the control unit, but such cases have not yet been reported in the fourth generation. The presence of an electric parking brake forces you to use a computer with a diagnostic scanner when replacing rear brake pads. Traditionally, Renault bodies are quite resistant to corrosion and withstand our operating conditions very well. With a caveat, if the cars were not in an accident, which could result in poor quality body repairs. If you can find a copy with factory paint, you don't have to worry about rust. There is no point in additional anti-corrosive treatment after purchase. The cars are well treated from the factory. The paintwork is quite high quality. Cars arrive from Europe with a minimum number of chips, but this is largely due to the quality of European roads. If you are planning to purchase a fourth-generation Scenic or Grand Scenic, set aside a significant amount of money for tires, because 20-inch wheels are standard on these models. Megane IV has a maximum of 18, and more often 16 or 17 inches, depending on the configuration. The clearance of the Megane is 137 mm, that of the Scenic is 170 mm. In terms of electronics and smart systems, cars in expensive trim levels are packed quite well. Tire pressure sensors, lane control system, adaptive cruise control with traffic sign recognition system, blind spot sensors, automatic parking, speed projection and road signs on the head-up screen, seats with massage, all LED optics with automatic light switching. While all these systems do not cause problems, experts only recall occasional cases of cruise control errors that go away on their own after some time. The quality of the materials used in the interior decoration is quite high. Steering wheels and everything that the driver's hands touch can look almost new on cars with a mileage of 150,000 to 200,000 kilometers. The wear resistance of seat upholstery materials is also at a high level. But some users have complaints about the build quality and appearance of the plastic here. The French are a little behind the Germans.